Ethan Carter stood in the engineering bay of the research vessel Horizon, staring at the blinking lights on the console. The ship was quiet except for the steady hum of the engines. They were days into their mission, traveling toward a distant star system to open talks with a small trade colony. The crew expected a smooth journey, but deep space had other plans. An alarm sounded, pulling Ethan's attention to the main display. A faint distress signal appeared on the screen. It was weak and scattered, as if it had traveled across years to reach them. The captain ordered the crew to change course and follow the signal. As they moved closer, the signal grew stronger, and soon the outline of a damaged alien vessel appeared in the darkness. When they arrived, the alien ship drifted without power. Scorch marks covered its hull. It looked like it had been in a battle long ago. The crew sent over a small rescue team. Ethan went with them, carrying his engineering kit, in case the vessel's systems could be restarted. Inside the alien ship, the air was thin and cold. Emergency lights flickered, casting shadows across the metal walls. They moved carefully, checking each corridor. In the last chamber, they found her. She stood weakly against the wall, her tall frame shaking. Her skin had a faint silver glow, and her eyes, deep violet, watched them with both fear and hope. When the team approached, she spoke in a soft, melodic voice. Her words were foreign, but the translator built into their suits worked quickly. "I am Leora," she said. "My ship was attacked. I am the last." Ethan felt a wave of quiet sadness in her tone. They gave her water and helped her onto the shuttle. During the trip back to the Horizon, she explained her condition. Her species, she said, could not survive long without a life-bonded partner. The bond was more than emotionally, kept their life force stable. Without it, her strength would fade, and soon she would die. In the medbay, doctors confirmed her health was failing. They gave her treatments to slow the decline, but nothing could stop it fully. She looked at Ethan once, as if sensing his concern, and offered a faint smile. That night, the captain held a meeting with the senior crew. The question was simple, but heavy: should they get involved? Some argued it was not their place to interfere in another species' customs. Others said they could not let her die if there was a way to help. Ethan listened quietly. He did not know her well, but something about her voice and her steady gaze stayed with him. He imagined her drifting alone in that ruined ship, waiting for help that might never have come. Leora spoke to the crew herself. She told them about her people, about the oceans of her homeworld, and the songs sung at dusk. She told them about the attack that destroyed her vessel, and the moment she realized she was alone, the room fell silent when she finished. There was no demand in her words, only truth. The captain promised they would think carefully. The meeting ended, and the crew went back to their posts. But Ethan stayed behind for a moment, looking out the viewport at the stars. Somewhere among them, her home still shone, far out of reach. Later, he passed by the med bay and saw her sitting by the window, her silver skin faint in the dim light. She was watching the stars too. Without thinking, he stepped inside. "Are you feeling better?" he asked. "The medicine slows the fading," she said, "but it cannot stop it." He nodded, unsure what else to say. Yet he stayed, talking with her about Earth, about the rivers and forests he had seen as a child. She listened closely, and for a moment, the weight in her eyes seemed lighter. As he left, Ethan knew the crew would have to make a decision soon, and he had a feeling that, when the time came, he already knew what his choice would be. Ethan woke early the next day, unable to stop thinking about Leora. The ship's corridors were quiet at this hour, most of the crew still asleep. He found himself walking toward the med bay without really deciding to. When he entered, Leora was awake, sitting upright, her eyes fixed on the soft glow of the stars outside the viewport. "You were here early," she said, her voice calm but weaker than the night before. "Couldn't sleep," Ethan replied. "Thought I'd check in." She gave a small nod, as if she had expected him. They spoke for a while. She told him about the life bond, how it was not simply a tradition, but a biological need. Two minds linked, sharing strength and stability. Without it, her body could not keep its energy balanced. Ethan listened, trying to imagine what it would feel like to have another person, his thoughts always there beside his own. By mid-morning, the captain called another meeting. The air in the briefing room was tense. Some crew members argued again that this was not their mission. They were engineers, scientists, and diplomats, not doctors or cultural experts. Others said it would be cruel to stand by while someone died, especially when the solution was clear. Leora was invited to speak. She stood in front of the group, her silver skin pale in the artificial light. She explained once more what was happening to her body. She said she did not expect them to change their mission for her, but she hoped they would understand that her time was short. There was no anger in her voice, no pleading. She simply stated the truth and waited. The room was quiet. The captain looked around at the faces of the crew. "Someone would need to volunteer," the captain said finally. "This is not a decision I will make for anyone." For a moment, no one spoke. Ethan felt the weight of the silence pressing down on him. He remembered the way she had looked when they first found her shaking, alone, yet still standing. He thought of her watching the stars in the medbay, and how her voice had softened when she spoke of her home. "I'll do it," Ethan said. Heads turned toward him. A few crew members looked surprised, others concerned. "You understand what this means?" the captain asked. "I think so," Ethan replied. "She needs someone. I can't stand by and watch her fade away." Leora's eyes met his. There was no smile, only a steady, searching look, as if she was measuring the truth of his words. After a moment, she gave a slow nod. Later in the medbay, the ship's medic explained the process to Ethan. The bonding ceremony would link their minds permanently. It could not be undone. He would feel her emotions and sometimes her thoughts, and she would feel his. It was not dangerous in a physical sense, but it would change him in ways no one could predict. Ethan sat across from Leora, listening. She did not try to persuade him or warn him away. She simply said, "If you choose this, we will both be changed. You must be certain." He thought about the life he had before joining the ship, quiet days in the shipyards. Long nights fixing engines under the hum of old lights. He had always kept to himself, avoiding close ties. Yet here he was, about to share his mind with someone from another world. And still, the choice felt right. "I'm certain," he said. She studied him for a long moment, then placed her hand gently over his. Her skin was cool, almost metallic, but her touch was steady. "Then we will prepare," she said. As he left the medbay, Ethan knew the coming days would change everything. He felt a mix of nerves and calm, as if a door had been opened inside him. Whatever lay beyond it, he was ready to step through. The next day, the medbay was prepared for the bonding. The lights were dim, and the air felt still, as if the ship itself understood the importance of the moment. Ethan entered quietly, his heart steady, but his mind filled with questions. Leora was already there, standing in the center of the room. She wore a simple robe of pale fabric that shimmered faintly under the lights. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice calm. "Yes," Ethan said. He had thought about this all night, and his answer had not changed. The ship's medic explained that the process would involve physical contact and direct mental connection. No machines would be used. It was something her species had practiced for generations. The medic would monitor them only to ensure their safety. Leora stepped closer and placed both of her hands on Ethan's temples. Her eyes met his, and for a moment, the room seemed to fade away. Her voice, soft but firm, spoke words in her own language, a chant that rose and fell like a tide. Ethan did not understand the words, but their meaning reached him in other ways. Suddenly, memories flooded his mind. He saw vast oceans under a green sky, felt the warmth of a sun unlike Earth's, heard the sound of waves breaking on silver sand. He knew these were Leora's memories, moments from her life before the attack. He saw her family, tall figures with the same silver glow to their skin, standing together at the edge of the water. He felt her joy in those moments, and the deep ache of losing them. In return, images from Ethan's own life flowed to her. He thought of his small home on Earth, the smell of rain on warm pavement, the nights spent in the shipyard fixing old engines. He felt her presence inside his mind, not as an intruder, but as someone gently exploring a place they had been invited into. The connection deepened. He could sense her emotions as clearly as his own. Her hope, her fear, her gratitude, they were all there, mingling with his thoughts. For a moment, it felt as though they shared a single heartbeat. Then the room returned to focus. Leora lowered her hands and stepped back. The medic checked them both, but found no signs of harm. Ethan felt slightly lightheaded. but there was also a new steadiness inside him. It was as if a quiet voice, not his own, now rested in the back of his mind. "It is done," Leora said simply. He nodded, feeling the truth of it. He could still sense her presence, a faint echo of her thoughts and emotions. It was strange but not unpleasant. She seemed calmer now, the faint glow of her skin stronger than before. As the hours passed, they remained in the med bay so the medic could observe them. Ethan noticed small changes he could tell when Leora was about to speak before she opened her mouth. And she seemed to know what he was thinking even when he said nothing. They spoke little, yet the silence felt full rather than empty. Later, they walked together through the ship's corridors. Crew members glanced at them with curiosity. Some smiled politely, others looked uneasy. Ethan understood their reaction. A human and an alien linked in such a way was rare, and no one knew what it might mean for the future. In the mess hall, they sat across from each other. Ethan tasted his food, then caught a faint sense of her reaction to it in his mind. She gave a small laugh, explaining that the flavor was strange to her, but not unpleasant. It was a simple moment, yet it made him realize how much their lives had already shifted. That night, as Ethan lay in his bunk, he felt her presence again, not in words, but in a sense of calm that helped him drift into sleep. Somewhere across the ship, she was resting too, and for the first time since they had found her, she no longer felt alone. Days passed, and the bond between Ethan and Leora grew stronger. He noticed it in small ways, how she would turn toward him before he spoke, how he could sense her mood without seeing her face. Sometimes he felt a faint rush of emotions that were not his own, like distant echoes. It was strange, but it felt natural, as if it had always been there. Leora's health improved quickly. Her skin regained its silver glow, and her movements were steadier. She began walking through the ship on her own, exploring the decks and meeting the crew. Some welcomed her warmly, curious about her world. Others kept their distance, unsure of how to act around someone so closely linked to a human. Ethan felt the change in how people looked at him too. Before, he had been just another engineer. Now he was part of something unusual, something that carried both curiosity and caution. He did not mind the attention, but he could tell it made Leora uneasy at times. One afternoon, they sat in the observation lounge watching a slow swirl of distant stars. Leora spoke quietly. "Your people are open, but they also fear what they do not understand." "That's true," Ethan said. "But given time, they'll see you as more than just different." She gave a small nod, though he could feel her doubt through their bond. Their quiet moment was interrupted by an alert over the ship's comms. The captain's voice came through, calm but firm. "All crew, prepare for contact. Unknown vessels approaching." Ethan and Leora hurried to the command deck. On the main screen, 3 dark shapes moved toward them. The ship's sensors marked them as armed patrol craft. Captain sent out a standard greeting, but the only reply was a demand hand over the alien survivor. Leora's expression hardened. "They are from the same group that destroyed my vessel," she said. "If they take me, they will kill me." Ethan felt a surge of her fear and anger through the bond, sharp and heavy. He looked to the captain. "We can't give her up." The captain agreed, but the patrol ships began to close in, weapons powered. The Horizon was a research vessel, not built for heavy combat. They had to think fast. Ethan and Leora exchanged a look. In that instant, they both knew they had the same idea. Her people had a unique sense for spatial movement, a kind of instinctive awareness of ship positions. Combined with Ethan's engineering skill, they could plot a path through the approaching ships without being hit. Working side by side at the navigation console, Ethan adjusted the ship's power systems while Leora guided the helm. He felt her thoughts moving with his own, suggesting small shifts in speed and angle. The ship moved in tight, sudden turns, slipping between the enemy patrols before they could lock on.
Ow.
For tense minutes, the Horizon weaved through the trap. Twice, enemy fire grazed their shields, but each time, Leora sensed it just before it happened. Finally, they broke free, jumping to a safe distance. The crew cheered, relief washing over the command deck. The captain turned to Ethan and Leora. "You two just saved the whole ship." Ethan glanced at Leora, who gave the smallest of smiles. But through the bond, he felt the deep relief and gratitude she carried. She was safe, for now. That evening, the ship returned to its steady course. The crisis had passed, but Ethan knew this would not be the last time their bond would be tested. As they walked back to their quarters, Leora spoke quietly. "We are stronger together than apart." He nodded. "We'll face whatever comes." In the silence that followed, their shared presence felt even stronger. A quiet certainty that neither of them was alone anymore. The horizon sailed on through the quiet stretch of space, the hum of its engines steady once more. Ethan and Leora spent more time together, no longer just because of the bond, but because they had become used to each other's presence. They worked side by side when needed, but also shared small, quiet moments. It's like eating in the mess hall or walking the observation deck in silence. Word of their escape from the patrol ships spread quickly among the crew. People who had once kept their distance now greeted Leora more warmly. She accepted it politely, though Ethan could still sense the trace of caution in her thoughts. He understood. Acceptance was never instant. It had to be built. One evening, the captain called them to the ready room. "We've received a message from the trade colony," the captain said. "They've heard about what happened and want to meet both of you when we arrive. They see this bond as something important, something that could mean more for human and alien relations." Leora looked at Ethan, her expression unreadable, but he felt her uncertainty through their link. "I am not used to being seen as a symbol," she said quietly. "Neither am I," Ethan admitted. "But maybe we can just be ourselves. That's enough." When the horizon reached the colony, the docking bays were lit brightly, and a small group waited to greet them. The officials shook their hands and welcomed them warmly. Leora kept her head high, answering questions with calm dignity. Ethan stayed close, ready to step in if she felt overwhelmed, but she handled it well. Later, they were invited to speak before a gathering. The hall was filled with colonist humans and a few other alien species who lived there. The captain introduced them, explaining how their bond had saved the ship. Then it was Leora's turn to speak. She told her story simply, without drama. She spoke of loss, of being alone in the darkness, and of finding help where she had not expected it. She said the bond was not just survival, it was trust, and trust could be built between any two people, no matter how different. When she finished, the hall was silent for a moment, then filled with applause. Ethan felt her mix of relief and pride through the bond, and it made him smile. The days on the colony passed quickly. He met with leaders, helped with minor engineering work on local systems, and even walked through the open markets. Leora was curious about human foods and crafts, and Ethan enjoyed showing her around. For the first time since they met, he felt they were living instead of just surviving. On their last night before leaving, they stood together at the edge of the colony's main platform, looking out at the stars. "When I was alone on my ship, I thought my life would end without meaning," Leora said. "Now, it feels like there is a future again." "There is," Ethan said. "And whatever comes, we'll face it together." As they prepared to board the horizon the next day, the captain approached them. "I want you both to know," the captain said, "that what you've done here will be remembered. Not just the escape, but the choice to stand together. It matters." They thanked the captain and returned to the ship. The engines powered up, and the horizon moved away from the colony, heading into the deep stretch of stars. In the quiet of the observation deck, Ethan and Leora watched the galaxy unfold ahead of them. They didn't need to speak. The bond between them carried enough shared strength, quiet understanding, and the knowledge that neither would ever face the darkness alone again. Far from her home and his, they had found something rare. It's not savior and saved, but equals, bound not by chance, but by choice.